Welcome to the JMJ Commercial Realty Podcast. Dive into market insights, winning strategies, and the stories shaping today's commercial real estate landscape. Let's get started.
Welcome, everyone, to the JMJ Commercial Realty Podcast. I am Adam Schertzer, and I'm joined by the broker and owner of JMJ Commercial Realty, Josh Cedia. How you doing, Josh?
Fantastic. How are you today, Ab?
Good, good. So we are on episode 6. I can't believe it. We're 6 episodes in to our commercial realty podcast. It's been a lot of fun chatting, talking about some of the stuff that we do, sharing it with other people, whether it be, business people, investors, other commercial real estate agents, maybe a residential real estate agent that's interested in getting into commercial work. So, I think there's a lot of things that people can get out of this podcast. So I
Definitely.
know that this kind of brings us to the episode here. We're going to talk about the benefits and risks of working as a commercial real estate agent.
Have you
Uh,
been looking forward to this one, Ab?
I've, last episode we talked the benefits and risks of purchasing commercial property, which I have never done. Would like to do at some point soon. But I do have the experience as working as a commercial real estate agent for a couple of years now. And so I can share plenty of stories, plenty of benefits, plenty of risks. So I am looking forward to getting into the meat and potatoes of this podcast here.
Excellent. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, as last time we, decided to talk about the positives instead of the negatives first. So why don't we do that the same with this one? We'll start off talking about the benefits. When someone asks you, what are the benefits of working as a commercial real estate agent, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah. First thing is the freedom and flexibility. It's like, you can make your own hours. You can work with whoever you want to work with. You can, have a few clients. You can have a lot of clients. It's like whatever you want to do. There's just so much freedom and flexibility with this type of work. And it's rewarding, to be able to help all these different types of business owners and investors and developers. For me, I know you said one thing there, but it's two, freedom and flexibility. What about you?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of benefits there. And I think for me coming from, working in corporate America at a large company of 100,000 people, sitting at a desk 9 to 5 every day, to then coming here, I think one of the biggest benefits for me is that flexibility. Having young kids, being able to, manage my schedule around their activities, being home when they're home if I want to. And so having that freedom, like you said, in your personal life, but I think also in your professional life too, it's great that you don't have, one boss or manager that you're reporting to, and that, we work with you know, lots of different clients, lots of businesses. And another thing too is that, when people come to us and want to work with us, it might not be a great fit for one reason or another, and we don't always have to work with them. I think for the most part, we want to help as many people as we can. But we might not be the right people, the right place. But I want to say, probably 99% of the time we are. I don't want people to listen to this and be like, I'm not working with them. Um, but it's nice to have that flexibility in who you work with. Um, yeah, and like in my previous job, I was stuck with my boss, and I was like, well, I got to report to my boss. I got to talk to them. Nothing I can do about that. Um, I think the flexibility here too with working with different clients is just like it's almost like you have all these little jobs. I wouldn't say like part-time jobs. It's all kind of working to the bigger picture there. Um, but you might be working with someone over here that's an investor that's looking to get a certain return rate on their purchase. You might be working with someone over here who's a first-time business that's never leased or own commercial real estate, and those are the ones that definitely I've um, been excited working with. Seeing these new businesses get off the ground. Um, Someone that has an idea, maybe they're working from their home, um, and then being able to take that to the next level and kind of being able to hold their hand and walk them through all the steps with what they need to do. And then finally getting to that final thing where you find them the great space, you get the lease, you help them, get there, and then it's you see the joy on their face when they can get started, and then thinking about what that's going to lead to, whether it be supporting themselves or their family or growing their business, helping the economy, bringing new services to the area. Um, so I think that benefit for me has been wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of great points. Absolutely. I agree with all of those.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like I could just keep talking. This is going to be a 3-hour podcast, so buckle up, people. It's going to be a long one.
Keep talking. No, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
great. It's we both come from the corporate world, having kind of longer time that we spent at large corporations. So, to have kind of this smaller feel and being able to, have an impact on the community and being able to grow your network. I know you love networking
Mhm.
and I enjoy networking as well, and being able to have some of these experiences that I don't think you people really would in a typical job. I mean, we've met with you know Hollywood movie producer, right? We've met with all different types of someone looking for filming a particular property. Um, Business owners, kind of really unique types of businesses that we hear about. Um, just there's a lot of cool aspects to this job. So.
Yeah, and I think coming into it, going from the corporate world, working in an office all those years and thinking about what commercial real estate was, I don't think I got a really good grasp on it. I thought I'm like, oh, I'm going to help people, lease office space or something like that, which is definitely, an aspect of it. But I didn't think of all the other things. And like you said, all the different people that we'd meet and all the different businesses that we'd learn about. And that's another thing that I love is when, we start working with a new client and they start telling us what they do, all the questions we ask to try to help them find, that perfect space. We really get to learn about the ins and outs of their business and what they do.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's on the tenant side. I mean, sometimes we see things, whether it's a sale or working with a landlord. We've had some situations recently where, a property has been empty for over a decade, and we helped to sell, to sell a property. Or on the leasing side, we had a space that was empty, I think, what, 3 or 4 years that,
mhm.
in COVID, and being able to help get a great new tenant in there. And it's rewarding,
Yeah,
whether you're helping landlord, tenant, buyer, seller, sometimes both, so it's really neat from that side of things.
yeah,
Not easy, but uh, rewarding and fulfilling, when it actually comes together, even though it might take months or years or longer.
right. But we'll save that to the risk section.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think there are a lot of benefits, and I think for each person individually, it might be, something might be better than the other, or something like that. But I think overall, there's a lot of great benefits for working in commercial real estate. Another benefit, you know, for me was the hours. I think, granted, I sometimes feel like I'm on 24/7. I got a text message last night at 8 o'clock from a tenant that's planning to move in this morning, and they still haven't got their commercial insurance certificate yet. They're asking if, can we still move in this morning? So it's not as much as like if you were a doctor or someone on call, but, you know, you have your phone on the time, and we let our clients, call us, text us at any time. And I think trying to manage that, maybe that's kind of a risk or a downside too, is that you're always available.
Well,
Um,
I was going to say on that, they can call or text when they want, but it doesn't mean that we're always going to
right,
respond right away. We
right.
set
It's
expectations
true.
and that side of
Yeah.
things.
I know sometimes it's hard though if you're, checking your email on the weekend or you're looking at your text and you see something and it's like, right, do I need to respond to this now or can it wait till Monday? But back to the hour part, I think it's been great because I thought real estate, maybe thinking more residential real estate, is that, the hours would be, afternoons, evenings, weekends, open houses, things like that we really don't see in commercial real estate. There occasionally might be something where, someone can't see a property because maybe they are working a 9 to 5 job right now and they need to come in the evening, or they need to come on the weekend. or they need to come on New Year's Day because they're traveling somewhere.
Yeah,
So,
that
you
happens.
know,
Yeah.
there are definitely exceptions to that. But I think overall, what has been great is that the hours have been pretty much, weekday business hours, um, which has been great and works wonderful for my family and personal life.
Same here. Yeah. I think one of the another benefit is the income potential. At a company, you typically have here's your salary, maybe you have some bonuses or different types of things, but you kind of have a range of here's what I'm going to make for the year.
Mm,
With commercial real estate, the sky's the limit. You can work on a huge project, you can work on smaller size things, you can all different types of projects. So I like that aspect as well. It works both ways.
mm.
We're going to talk about the risk later, but I do like the unlimited income aspect of it.
That's true. I always felt kind of stuck at my previous jobs with, I they were mostly 40-hour a week salary type jobs, and I could put in 80 hours a week, and maybe I would get that 3% increase in raise because they're like, "Oh, you did a great job this year." Or maybe I would, have the chance of a possible bonus. But then if the company didn't do well, then you wouldn't have those things. So it wasn't always a direct correlation with how much work I put in and how much I do to how much I could make. So that is a great benefit of this with with the there's no cap um, to the amount of money you can make doing this.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to your point about building out the network. I think, or I'm not sure what I thought when I came in here that when I started working for you or with you there, that you were just gonna, oh, here's some customers go, or people would just be calling in. I'd be sitting here and waiting by the phone every day and be like, yeah, thank you for calling JMJ Commercial Realty. Oh, you'd like to buy a $3 million building? Sure, I can help you with that. Um, and occasionally we do get people that will just call in or find us on the website or things like that. But so much more of it is you having to go out there and meet these people and meet people that not necessarily they're the ones that are looking to purchase or lease or sell, but that they know people. So building out that network, going to lots of different networking events, meeting business owners, meeting anyone. And I think always just letting people know what you do. It's not one of those things where I'm, like my kid's soccer game handing out business cards,
Mhm.
but if it comes up in conversation or you might overhear someone talking about, oh, I've been looking for a space for my hair salon or something like that when you're getting your hair cut or um so just, being available, and always kind of looking out for different opportunities.
Yeah, and sometimes they come up in places that you really won't expect, and sometimes from networking, it might be someone that you develop a relationship with over years, and then it leads to something. So it might be quick, it might take
Mhm.
time. But I think one of the benefits of like joining a chamber of commerce, I know we're in a very strong chamber of commerce that has lots of members, and when we go to events, it's not three or four people that show up. It's 50, 70, 100 plus people, and that really can be helpful over the long term.
Definitely. And I think it was really nice for me to see recently. We went to that the business expo in Waltham, and the first time I went there was I think about 2, 3 weeks in when I started this job. And you knew quite a few people there because you've been doing it for a while. And for me, it was my first time experience in meeting people, and then over the past couple of years, seeing a lot of these people either through Chamber of Commerce's or different networking opportunities, going back a couple of years later and realizing how many people I knew and how many people knew me,
Hmm.
and that was such a good feeling. Um, and it was kind of, a nice validation of like, okay, all the time and the effort I'm putting into this networking and building out my network, um, is paying off at least in the part where people do know you and they, something comes up, they will think of you. And I've seen that recently where, getting a few referrals where someone I might have met 2 years ago that's now sending me, oh, someone I know is looking for this, or can you help someone with this? Um, and I just know the more that I do it, the more exponential that will grow. and it'll just happen a lot more frequently. I mean, I see it happen with you, a lot now in the long term that you've been doing this. So um, definitely important. I feel like we could do a whole episode just on networking.
You
Uh,
should. Yeah. I mean, it's huge. I feel very fortunate that, I'm 9+ years into doing this type of work, and it seems like almost on a weekly basis, one or two, if not more, introductions, referrals, people asking questions about things from my network, about
mhm,
properties, previous clients, all that kind of stuff. It's, being able to work with clients who you already know and like and trust, and vice versa. It's a great feeling. And so I know we recently went back to that Waltham, Massachusetts event that you mentioned, and seeing so many people. Be happy to to see you and say, "Hey, Adam, what's going on?" And how
mhm.
that's great. I mean, it was like so many people that it's only been a couple of years, right? So that's
Right.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that part of the job too is I really enjoy, which I didn't know that I'd like it as much. Doing the networking, going to these events. I went to one recently um, at a farm, and they had probably about 40 or so people there. It was in an old barn, and one of the businesses in the chamber is a ghost investigators. So it fit with the theme now of almost Halloween and learning about their business, and it was just a fun event. Done other ones where you have like a social event almost if you're going out to meet people personally, but it's meeting people for business. Um, and whether it be a breakfast or a coffee meetup or bowling or something like that, and it's a great time. It's enjoyable. There's sometimes where I'm like, this is actually my job. You know, it's like,
I say
I
that
like
often.
I
Yeah,
love this and it's fun, but it also does lead to building those connections, and eventually, I think and it has. I've seen it happen. It does lead to business. So,
yeah. So definitely a lot of positives for working in commercial real estate.
hmm yeah. Should we talk about some of the negatives, some of the risks?
I think it's important to talk about the risks, talk about the negatives, because there's
Yeah,
definitely quite a few.
yeah.
What
So
would you say are some of the biggest ones that come to mind?
well, I think going back to the income part where, there is the possibility to make, any amount of money. There's also that risk of not making any money. I think especially starting off, it's really hard because you don't have that network yet. People don't know what you do. And also getting someone to trust you to work with you that, then you don't have this experience. Um, I remember starting off and meeting people and they're like, "Oh, so how long you been doing this?" I'd be like, "3 weeks." And part of it is like, do I do the whole fake it till I make it? Like, I don't want to lie, and say, "Oh,
Right.
I've been doing this for 30 years," and but that, I found that being honest and talking about the short amount of time was actually a pretty good icebreaker for networking, and then and going back to some of those people, that I ran into recently, and that, and they're like, "Oh, how's it been?" And I'm talking about, you know, I've helped these people, all this had these deals and these deals. And so I think that that's been a good, you know, benefit to me, showing other people that, oh, wow, he's only been doing this for this amount of time and he's already accomplished all this, with this amount of deals, with this amount of people and just that experience. Um, but I think that, that risk, I think just getting started, if anyone out there is listening that, maybe they are in a 9 to 5 job and they've thought, I'd love to work in real estate. I think it'd be a great challenge, it'd be a lot of fun, which it is. But just know that, it's probably going to take a year, 2 years to really get to where, you might want to go. And then even then, 2 years in, I feel like I haven't reached, some of the goals that I put forth. Um, but I can definitely see it building, from year one to year two. And um, but I think, I remember talking to some people early on and other real estate agents, they're like, they asked me like, oh, you just started. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna give it like 6 months, see how it goes. They're like, you really got to give it like 2 to 3 years. Yeah. And I was like, man, at the time, I'm like, man, 2 to 3 years sounded like forever. And now I'm, in that 2 to 3 year time frame now. I can definitely see what they mean. It's nice to be able to reflect on that and share that with other people that might be interested in getting into this. Not to say that you might come in and maybe someone who's got a $10 million building and they're like, yep, come on in and do this. But more, I would think probably more often than not, new agents do struggle at the beginning. It's going to be hard. It does take a while to build up that network to, you know, meet people and then have those people, trust you, to be able to refer you to people they know. So, I think that's probably one of the biggest risks coming in. And then also, not knowing when you're going to get that next commission check. So,
Yeah. I mean, it takes time to build up knowledge about what you're doing, right? I mean, in
mhm,
addition to building those relationships. But yeah, I mean, there have been over the years, at least for me, I can think of multiple periods of time where it's been months and months and months. And even though you might have the knowledge and you might have relationships, whether it's COVID happening or other types of things, I've had periods of time where nothing has come in month after month after month. And you're working really hard, and yet sometimes things are out of your control for a deal to come
mhm,
together. And so it's really important to have a little bit of a safety net, um, especially for this type of line of work, because um, for commercial, it could take months, or sometimes it could take a lot longer for a sale to go through or a lease to go
mhm,
through. Sometimes it can be quick. I don't want to paint a picture that it's always a long process. We've seen things that can move very quick, and sometimes you might have a cash buyer and they can close quickly and don't have a lot of contingencies or any contingencies. But sometimes you're dealing with zoning or permitting approval on certain things. Sometimes the bank might take longer with their process. Sometimes, financing might not come through for one bank and you have to switch to another bank. Sometimes all different things that can come up. So
mhm.
um, it can be lumpy in terms of income. I guess that's one way to put it, which you've
Episode
seen.
6, episode 6, the lumps of commercial real estate. Yeah, no, it can be. And I think that part can be frustrating. I think another thing too, benefits and risk, the highs can be really high, when you're able to get something to come together, you put a lot of work into it, a lot of time. But the lows can be really low as well. And recently, you've put in a lot of effort on a certain development project that looked like it was, really going to happen, and then it fell apart, and now you're starting over again. Um, so I think being able to kind of deal with those, on an emotional level too, just to um, and be able to handle that. So it's, it can be, like you say, like a roller coaster ride sometimes
Mhm.
with doing
And
this.
it's tough when you put in months and months or
Yeah.
years sometimes on a project and it doesn't work out the way that you want to. And,
Hmm.
a lot of times in this role as a broker or as an advisor, we're working 100% on commission. And so, if you're putting in hours and hours and, putting in so much time and it doesn't come to fruition, it can be very challenging, but it can also be very rewarding if,
Hmm.
on the flip side. So,
Yeah. So sometimes I tell people it's like, doing this job is like working really hard for the chance to possibly make some money at some point down the line someday. Got a convoluted way to say it, but yeah, it's in it. I think that's a hard thing too, going from, a salaried job or an hourly pay job or something like that, where, I can say, okay, I'm gonna work 40 hours this week, and at the end of that week, I'm gonna get a paycheck with this amount. And now it's like, I can work 100 hours this week and end up with nothing, or maybe get something 6 months from now, or, so I think one of those things too, like, that you had told me in the beginning was that, having enough stuff going on where if one of these things does fall apart, it's not like, the end of the world. It's like, okay, you have 6 deals going on, the chance of all of them closing, it'd be great, but there's probably a chance that maybe one of them doesn't work out, or one of them takes much longer than you thought it would, or something like that. So, um, I think building your pipeline, your backlog, trying to always have, as much going on as you can handle. I don't want to say, you don't have like 30 things going on and you can't take care of everything, but um, it's nice to get to the point where, you know, you have five, six things, five out of the six closed. That one doesn't, sure, it's not great. It can be disappointing. Um, but at least knowing that it's, everything else kind of worked out. So,
Yeah. So it's sometimes it might be, one big deal that goes through, and that one big deal makes up for all of,
mm,
the you know challenges with all the other deals, and or it could be, small things, medium size, large. It's
mhm.
but we like to, I know we enjoy, like you said, helping all different types of business owners and investors, and so it's all good. I think it's good to have a sense of humor in this line of work, so it's good that we can laugh. Even though we might not make as much money, at times it's good to laugh. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's part of the excitement too of this job, and I think going back to the benefit too is that it's always different.
Yes.
Every day is different. And, whether you're out doing, showing clients properties, putting in offers, helping an owner lease out a space, sell a building, going to a closing, calling a bunch of different businesses, going to a networking event. Um, no 2 days in a row are the same. And
I
you
really
also
love
don't
that.
know, and that part's great. And I think it keeps you interested. It's like I think a lot of people, with their 9 to 5 job, kind of, do the same thing. You go through the motions. There's definitely the safety and security of that, you know. But I mean, maybe not as much as the safety and security as I found out after 22 years of the same company, and then they're like, you're out. So, um, and but having this, um, it's so much different than that. But then it's also, doesn't it, the variety of what we do, and also what I love is the variety of people we work with.
Hmm.
Whether it be investors or, you know, a cat cafe, a carpenter, a landscaper, escape rooms, it can be anything. And you get that call or you get that referral and you talk to someone new. It keeps that excitement going, I think. It's not doing the same thing. Granted, it's the same kind of process, but each situation is different.
Yeah. But I do think it's important to have a mentor in this type of work. When you're going into commercial real estate and you're learning about the ins and outs of the business. I mean, I was very fortunate that I had time, with my father
Hmm.
to spend with him, and I know, other um, people or books or resources, podcasts. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can learn, but having some sort of mentorship in this line of work is really important.
Definitely. I feel like we could have a whole podcast on that. You know, episode 17, mentors. But yeah, I mean, you were, and you still are, you know, crucial for me in being a mentor and teaching me the things that you've learned. Because I think so much of this is on the job training. And granted, you could read a book and say, this is how a lease works, and this is how,
Right.
and there's definitely things that you kind of have to follow. But I think so much of it is real world experience and being able to come in and you could mentor me and kind of have me do the things that maybe you didn't realize you should be doing until year 3 or year 4. And it's like, all right, if you want to get started and get going up, get quicker, this is what I think you should be doing. And whether or not I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, or I'm like, I don't want to listen to you. But no, it's been awesome. And I just wanted to thank you for being my mentor. Um,
Yeah, my
you know,
pleasure. I mean, it's great that you've been so coachable. I mean, I know we're friends and we go back, 40 plus years, but it's from a business side of things. I mean, you're right. For me, I didn't even think about, joining a chamber or networking until after like the first year or so, and that was a wasted opportunity for the first year. I had different kind of expectations coming into this line of work. So,
Right.
when I mentioned that to you, you went right in and, joined the chamber and other networking and just, and that's just one example of many things that, you
Mhm.
took to heart. So I think, it's great, on that side as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I remember talking to people in the chamber because up here where I am, I joined the one in my area. And I remember talking to people there and they're like, wow, you've only been doing this for like it's probably like a month before, I contacted them and I said, yep. I said my broker, he said, first things you got to do, he's like, you got to join the local chamber, start meeting businesses, start to get to know people, build your network. And I think that's been so key starting, right when you get going. And it's a great way to, be able to feel more comfortable about talking about what you do, and just getting out in front of people. Because I mean, pretty much this whole job is just we talk with people all day,
Hmm.
whether it's people we network with or with potential clients or current clients. Um, and I think you have to be really comfortable talking to people and being comfortable about talking about what you're doing. And the more you do it, the more you'll feel comfortable if it's, very natural now. I remember in the beginning I had like more of like a script, be like, I am a commercial real estate agent and I like to,
Oh, I
and
remember printing out a script, when I was calling people and say, "Oh, I'm Josh CDO with,
yeah,
JMJ, well, the previous firm that I was at," and
yeah,
being able to, have that safety net, in
right.
terms
Yeah.
of, okay, if I make a mistake or whatever, let me just try and figure out, a little backup here. But with that experience, it's huge. You do it over and over and over again,
Hmm.
and eventually it just becomes, so much easier. So.
Definitely. I know we need to wrap it up here. We could talk about this for hours. So if you do have any questions, comments, anything else you'd like us to talk about, please post it down below or on whatever you're listening to or watching us. You can also reach us at podcast@jmj-cre.com, and we will reply to you and maybe even talk about your questions or comments in a future episode. So Josh, thank you again for taking the time out of your busy day. And
My pleasure.
I guess we'll see everyone in episode 7.
All right, take care, everyone.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on the JMJ Commercial Realty podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of JMJ Commercial Realty or its affiliates. The information provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered financial, legal, or real estate advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with qualified professionals regarding their specific real estate or business needs. JMJ Commercial Realty makes no representations or warranties as to the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of any information discussed. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast is done solely at your own risk. By listening, you agree that JMJ Commercial Realty and its representatives shall not be held liable for any losses or damages resulting from the use of information shared.